You're listening to Zen and the Art of Endurance, your podcast for getting great at going long.
All right, all you endurance studs and studettes, welcome to another great episode of Zen and the Art of Endurance, the podcast where we go long and learn a lot about ourselves along the way. What an episode we're going to have. I just finished this weekend a 6-hour mountain bike marathon race. I think I ended up doing about 46 miles. It's a looping course. And it starts in the daylight at it was 108 degrees on the bike computer. And it dropped down to 95 after the sun started going down. And we did 3 hours in the daylight and then 3 hours into the night. And it took me about 45 minutes per lap. And they got longer every lap as you get tired. And eventually on lap 3, starting the 4th lap maybe, I picked up lights and headed off into the darkness and proceeded to crash on the first dark lap. I learned a lot about it. I'm leaving the pool right now, and I have injuries from the race, but they're minor. And one of them is separated ribs. When I crashed, I landed on my right side and I split my ribs. And that's a really painful injury. I've had it a bunch over the years, both sides. And what happens is after you get moving and stuff, the initial movement and impact or shock of anything that you're doing is really painful. I mean, doubling over in pain. But then I think your body releases pain, its own self painkillers, and maybe it's endorphins, and then kind of takes the edge off of things. And then after a while, it's not that bad. So swimming today, the race was on Saturday night. I've waited to swim until, Wednesday morning. But arcing my right arm, because it's on my right side, up into the air, and then breathing to the right, really opens up the ribs, and it pulls on them. And then, that hurt. I was not expecting that. I'd kind of forgotten about it a little bit until I got into the pool. Sunday didn't do anything. Monday, went out for a bike ride in the evening, and that was a little bit painful. The first few bumps I hit off-road jarred the ribs a little bit, and boy, that hurt at first. But then it smoothed out. And it's good to ride and kind of let things open up and kind of get things moving again. You don't go too long. And then especially like if you wrecked or had a hard event, you want to get back on that horse and don't let it get to you. And also, if you want a lifetime of fitness, then you don't want to be a one and done, do it and then take forever to get back into exercising again to the point of where you just don't even want to do it at all. And so it's important to get back onto things gently, very gently. And because mountain biking was legs and upper body, but a lot of legs. Starting off with biking first is pretty easy because it's convenient. And then I biked also last night, Tuesday night, and was a little bit more settled in and felt a little bit better. And then decided to go for a swim this morning. And then probably on Thursday, which is tomorrow morning, might go for my first run. This morning was the first morning that I got up out of bed and wasn't limping and retching with pain in my legs. 46 miles of mountain bike racing, all mountain bike, all single track, is rough on the body, man. And race pace, So, let's see. I got 18th place. In my age group, the solo, they do relay and solo. And it's 2-person relay, 4-person relay, 1 person, solo. Kai and I both did solo. and I got in 6 laps, and out of the solo racers, 45 people entered and 35 people showed up, and I got 18th. So in one way I got top half, and in another way I just got it right around half. But that ain't bad for somebody that's not really a great mountain biker, and also on a big heavy bike that's not really a cross-country racing bike, and also using flat pedals so I can eject and jump off that bike when I start to crash, which is a really handy thing to do. And also, I have not been on my mountain bike since January, and it's a pretty cool skill to be able to hop from bike to bike, and be in a decent form, I guess. Let's see, Kai hit his head. We both had a crash on our first lap. And, the race is at Bluff Creek Bike Ranch in Warda, Texas. It's a operating cattle ranch. It's awesome. And Emily and Kylie went to support us. And you're doing laps. And Kai's first lap was like 35-something minutes, maybe 30 minutes. And mine was 45. Of course, I'm just off the back and just trying to progress and move up, which I did. I actually moved from 80th place to, what was it? 60th, and then 45th, and then 30th, and then 20th something, and then 18th, and got in my 6 laps. And Kai was off the front right at the beginning. What they did is they said, okay, e-bikers go first. They had an e-bike class, and then relay racers go second. And then, 2 minutes apart. This is at 5 o'clock. And we're out in this field. There's one shade tree. It was 108 degrees on my bike computer. And heat warning in effect, all this stuff. And I was warned that the trails were dusty and dry. And there's little pockets of sand. Kai went and pre-rode it a couple days before and said, be careful. There's little pockets of sand kind of here and there. And then, what did we do? Then our group goes, and Kai's off the front, and then I'm off the back. And Emily shot a video. It's so funny to see us at opposite ends of the spectrum. But I'm out there riding to have fun, see how good I could do. But also, I'm 51 years old. I'm not there to win anything. And also, I got to be careful with my health, and not kill myself. And so, you go like 80%, 75%. And that's what I love about endurance sports. They're so long that you just go kind of medium. And that's actually the best. You're going to get your best performance, and then you're not stressing your body where you're going to need to go to the hospital. So at our age, not going to blow a valve because you're not going too hard. Anyway, Kai had an accident. I'm riding along, and then I get this alert on my bike computer that Kai's had a crash, because we've got the bike computers, Garmin 840s, where they'll alert family members, and it says, and then a second or two later, he said that he's okay, keep going. And then a few minutes later, I had a crash, but it was a real easy one. It wasn't bad. And this is full daylight. And what it was I was in a hairpin turn, and I was trying to pass somebody. And the hairpin turn had sand in it, and it made me wipe out, but not bad. I came off the bike, but just barely. And also with flat pedals, I can just, like I said, I can eject. And the reason I ride flat pedals on a mountain bike is I've tried clipless. I've done clipless for years, off and on, and I ride clipless and everything else. And I can bunny hop on a BMX bike, or on any bike, without clipless pedals. So I don't need clipless pedals to perform. And I'm really tall. And so being up really high, if you start to fall over backwards or sideways down a slope, the impact is massive and very painful. So you want to be able to get off that bike as fast as you can and maybe save yourself. And I have problems unclipping on my right side. My ankle doesn't twist correctly to get out on the right side. So anyway, I'm not making excuses. It's just, I own it. I ride flat pedals, and I do pretty well on flat pedals. And I'm proof that you can actually ride flat pedals and be fun. It's fun. It's actually fun going into turns. You can put a foot down and drift. and actually go faster than people with clipless in that situation. But anyway, I have my little crash, and then I'm like, oh, I wonder if this is where Kai crashed too, this one little spot. I knew it was probably that area. Then I found out later that he hit a tree head on. That I'd say it's a tree that's about 6 inches across in the trunk. So it's nice and stout, not a giant tree, but nice and stout. And at about chest level, it splits into a V. And one of the V's on the it's on the left side of the trail, and the V of the right side of the tree arches into the trail a little bit. And I guess Kai, he said he had his head down, was racing, and he just clocked the top of his head with that. Just, it was about a 4-inch thick. He said it wasn't a branch, it's a tree. And so there was that. And Emily, when he got to the aid station, Emily did a concussion check on him and decided, well, I guess we'll keep going. Just don't wreck again. And that was the beginning of the mountain bike race. I'm at W to the ERK. I'm actually a little bit late. It took extra work to get to the pool and get all set up. So I'm running late because getting all the gear together and stuff, after you take time off, and then your house and all your gear's a mess because of all the getting your act together to go to the pool. It takes all this extra time. So we'll be back with a little bit more information on how I trained for the race, how I felt afterwards, strategy, fuel. I got dehydrated on the second lap, which is a little bit unusual. So I want to talk about that, how that happened, and we'll talk about all that. All right, be right back. Bing. All right, I am back. On my lunch break, just went and dropped off the gravel bike, which reminds me, we need to talk a little about the work I had done on the mountain bike. On the gravel bike, the rear brake's kind of shot, and it's both worn down, and the lever probably needs adjusting and stuff. And also the culprit, I need to email him or message him back on Facebook. The culprit elbow pads are going on the gravel bike, and the old pads the bolts are rusted. I can't get them undone. So before I ruin the tool, I figured I'd take it in, and they can tap and reverse screw out the old bolts, which are pretty much shot anyway. Those have seen a lot of life. I think I used those pads at Alcatraz, the Alcatraz Triathlon, where I rode a road bike for better control because the bike ride's really hilly, and I wasn't familiar with the course at all. And rode my titanium True North road bike with zip wheels and clip-ons. Anyway, we're going to be a little bit all over the place with this as I think of things. The few days before the race, I took my mountain bike in to get it double checked, and of course we were waiting for for fundage, for money to clear and stuff like that, a paycheck, so I could go and take this thing in. But anyway, I took it in a little while before the race. I took my mountain bike in a little while before the race to get the brakes were really mushy, and the levers coming almost all the way to the grips. And the guy was like, we have a Trek shop here in town, which is amazing. And we're getting an REI at our little college town of College Station, Texas. How about that? And the Trek shop guy said, you rode on this? You've been racing on this like this? And I was like, yeah. But again, it's just me. I'm not that worried about it. And they fixed that. And then I also had them check the chain. I have a chain checker tool somewhere. I don't know where it is. But I told them that my last race, the chain was skipping really badly. And if you replace your chain and your cassette is really worn, you need to replace the cassette too, or else the chain and the cassette don't really behave nice together, and you get like skipping and stuff. And so I was just concerned. I had him look at the cassette, and everything's fine. So anyway, the bike performed really well during the race, except I've already posted the YouTube videos from the race. I've videoed the last lap. It was in the dark. It's awesome. Except there's creaking in the bottom bracket or so, that can happen in the seat post too. And there's not much I can do about that without leaving it with them for a long time. And I just didn't want to bother with that I didn't have time to bother with that right now. So they worked on that. And I put new sealant in the tires because the bike hasn't really been raced or ridden since January. So the sealant's probably shot. So I had Orange Seal Endurance, and I put that in through the valves. And on the valves, I recommend this for any tubeless tires, is switch out your valves. They're expensive. They're $50. I just bought some for Kai, though, too, because he had a valve that was leaking that we had to use a CO2 cartridge to fill up on a ride. These are valves that don't leak, and they're Fillmore, as in fill it up, Fill more, and they're $50. But the valve core design is where they've moved the plunger inside the valve core down below the rim a little bit so that there's more space for it. So then it allows for a much wider throttle body for you to pump air in and out, and then sealant is less likely to clog it. And then also the cool thing is you can put sealant through the valves without having to remove a valve core, because there is no valve core. People think you can't clean these, by the way, but you can. There's a little Allen wrench head socket thing on the underside of the valve. If you take it apart, if you ever do feel a need to clean them, you can. Okay, that's a long story. But we get to the race, and to preserve the battery on my shifting, I took the battery off, and I knew this is a problem. You don't want to transport the bike for anywhere without a valve, without a battery on it, or a battery cover or connection cover where the battery goes on it, the red thing, piece of plastic, because then the connections get dirty, and then it doesn't work as well. And so we get there, but I figured it was going to be dry like the entire way there. And also the reason you take your batteries off is because the jostling of the bike can drain your batteries. And although this was only an hour and a half drive, I took it off. I get there, my battery won't work. The shifting will not work. And I went into freak out mode because we've invested months of training for this thing and getting ready for it. And then to have the bike shifting not work. And then we turned Emily's car on. I brought the charger with me, and I put the battery on the charger for a little bit. I have a spare battery and battery covers somewhere in the garage with all my other bike crap, of course. And then in the meanwhile, and so eventually it started working, and I was like, oh my God, dude, please. And this happens on rare occasion. And also on really rare occasion, I have the earliest electronic shifting for mountain bikes. It's Eagle Axis or something like that. But it's really great stuff. And a 1052, I think, on the rear. And while all this is going on, we're setting up the aid table and stuff. And unfortunately, the aid station alley has already been filled up when we got there around 2 o'clock, 2:30. Yeah, 2:30. And I make notes about every race so that I can use them again next year. And that's one of the things to write down is if we get there at 2:30, the race packet pickup, there's a race meeting. Packet pickup ends at 4, supposedly. There's a race meeting at 4:30, and then the race starts at 5. And if we get there at 2:30, the race alley aid station way is kind of filled up, and there's no place to park right there. The race is really cool. You ride through a barn, and then as part of the race course, it's so awesome. And then the lead up to the barn is slightly uphill, which makes for a great aid station pickup. But that was all kind of full. So after you go through the barn and then take a left, we parked to the left. Emily wanted to set up the aid station on the left where the car is kind of in the shade area. And I go, no, it needs to be on the right so that we can grab things with our right hand as we go through. Kai and I are both right-handed. And that'll end up working out great. So then Kai gets on his trainer, his warm-up trainer. It's analog. It's rollers in the back, and then you take the fork off your bike and mount it on the front, which I highly recommend as your trainer if you're going to warm up for a bike race, unless you do an electronic one of some sort. But anyway, they're easy. They're portable, easy, kind of lightweight. And then if you do full rollers, then you need to find flat ground. That in an off-road race, there's not going to be any flat ground anywhere. There's not a paved surface, I think, anywhere in this area except for the floor of the barn and the front porch of the ranch house. Anyway, so Kai gets on that thing. And with mountain bike tire on the back, dude, that thing is loud. And it sounds like an angry hornet. And he's badass, so it's going like, rah, 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 like that. And there's people kind of gathered around and just kind of watching, going, holy crap. And that's always really intimidating stuff. It's kind of neat. And yeah, I think we got things lined up. What I decided to do was a fuel bottle every 2 hours. I wasn't exactly sure how long each lap was going to take me because it usually takes me 50, 55 minutes per lap. But they were saying that they were not going to have part of the race course on the course, like maybe pull like half a mile off this thing because of, well, they didn't say why. And so I don't really trust that. And so I was going, well, they either are or aren't. So I went ahead and planned for the longer, And so 2 laps was going to take me just under 2 hours. And so like an hour and 50 minutes. So I made 2 hour fuel bottles and I was planning on going 6 hours. So I made 3 of those. And then I had 3 camelbacks all in a bucket. And I posted that on Instagram where you can go check that out. And I guess that was really about it. I used a big utility bucket to put the camelbacks in. It fits 3, and then I put camelbacks in something that's protected like that and vertical, but also with hard walls on it. It's like a milk crate we kind of do. That way to keep people from stepping on bladders. And that reminds me, my podcasts are full of tips on purpose. So the psychological stuff, the Zen and the approach to being calm and everything is maybe let's say 50% of the tips. And then the other 50% is things that I've learned about how to race that I pass on to you guys. And you can greatly accelerate your progress in this sport by knowing these little things. I was telling a coworker today, he's craving salt. I go, yeah, you need to add salt to your workout water. Or he's craving salty foods. And I said, and you will continue to crave salty foods and eat junk food to compensate until you have enough sodium in your workout water and other foods that are healthy. Anyway, so if you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/ZenTry, and you can sign up for a subscription. And also, if it doesn't allow one-time donations, I'm going to go check that here next and then set up a PayPal. I used to have a PayPal. People can donate by that, one-time donations. And yeah, support that. Or if you want coaching, let me know. Go to your Gmail and sign up by sending me an email at texifornia@gmail.com. And again, texifornia@gmail.com, and ask for coaching somewhere in the email subject line. And I'll catch it, and I coach using Training Peaks, the world's best, and the stuff that the Olympians use. So anyway, because my mountain bike has only 1 bottle cage on it, that's where my fuel bottle is going to go. And I have a Camelback, and I wanted to do every 2 hours. I have a 2-liter Camelback, but you're generally going to like 2 liters per hour, a liter and a half per hour. I was like, man, I don't know if that's really going to be enough. And whenever I would start like a second lap, my Camelback's about half empty. Maybe I should grab a water bottle. So I have older triathlon bottles, water bottles that are flat that go in a jersey really well without being all bulgy. And they work great for jersey bottles. So I filled those up as well with water, sodium water, electrolyte water. And I'll get into my fuel and electrolyte here in a second. And put those in the bucket, and then, threw a Camelback on and threw a fuel bottle in my bottle cage, and then lined up to the back of the race. And they sent off the e-bikers at 5 and the relays at 5:02 and us at 5:04 p.m. And my bike computer said 108 degrees. And also before the race, there was 2 announcements. Well, announcements and a clarification. that I asked were, so they said the person on their third lap who gets the fastest lap will get $100. And, that's a racing tactic to make the race interesting. In the boring parts of the race, people get bored. Let's make an interesting part in there. And I thought that was kind of interesting. And it turns out Kai won that, but he didn't. There was a technicality where he didn't win it. And maybe I'll explain that now. The e-biker won. So it was he was third fastest on the third lap. But the two people in front of him, one was an e-biker, and that shouldn't count. And then the other one was in a relay. And I'm like, that really shouldn't count. And I emailed the race director after the race, and I said, hey, I saw that the two people in front of Kai were, I was really nice, were, an e-biker and a relay person. Shouldn't Kai win the thing? Because I'm like, trying to be supportive and help Kai out if he wants to make some, want to continue doing the sport and stuff. And then the race director had some reason that e-biker, but the relay person the relay people do count for some kind of weird logic that they had, because there's a strategy and a technique to it. So whatever. And I'm like, I don't really agree with that, but okay, whatever. It's only $100. I don't want to ruin relationships over it. And then the other thing that I clarified, which was, I was like, what? Was I said, is it how many laps you get in and you got to finish before 6 hours, which is what the race I did a few years ago was like. Or if you come in before 6 hours, it's still okay to finish another lap, and then y'all figure out who got in the most laps in the shortest amount of time. If I was doing barely under a lap every hour, and this is kind of what happened, is I finished 6 laps right before the cutoff, and I decided not to go out for another lap. I was just done. But I could have, and then I would have done one more lap, and then laps count. I would be ahead of people that only did 6 laps because I did 7, right? Okay, I got to run. I'll be right back and tell you more about how the race went down. Okay, I'm back. I had to do something real quick. Life. My bike it's Wednesday, and my bike is not going to be ready till Saturday. Our Trek shop is closed on Mondays and Tuesdays. Oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do without my gravel bike. I love riding gravel for the countryside and just the expanded places to go. But I do have a mountain bike and a triathlon bike, so life could be way, way worse. And both of them are mostly functioning, I think. A guy that I swim with this morning asked me if the bike is damaged. Because I posted on Instagram all my scrapes and bruises and my separated ribs from my crash. And I was like, oh, yeah, bike's actually fine. So let's talk about that for a second. I ride a Canyon Neuron. We got it for Kai for his junior year in high school. And Canyons are run big, and we got him an extra large. And it fit okay. It was a little bit of the big side, but he's going to grow into it. And then he was placing just off the podium. And the Canyon Neuron, it's a metal aluminum alloy Canyon, not a carbon one. And I talked my mom into splitting the cost, because my mom is a sucker for putting her kids and her grandkids on bikes. It's a Scandinavian, German culture, European culture. Bikes are everything. Bikes solve a lot of problems, especially with boys. Let them burn off the energy. That's why she put us into soccer. Though boys behave way better when they're tired. And she had 2 of them. She had me and my brother. She just wore us out, and swim team too, on purpose, I think, so that she could get some rest. Anyway, so we got Kai. We upgraded Kai to a Trek Super Caliber, and then I upgraded from my hardtail Orbea, which was a crazy fast. It was alloy, but a crazy fast cross-country bike. But I wanted to do marathon. I discovered marathon mountain biking a few years ago, and I'm like, dude, I need full suspension. and for my back and everything, for comfort, for going long distance. And I used to have a full suspension Cannondale Super V. Those of you that know what that is badass. I had a Super V SL, super light, with all XT on it back in the 90s. And I know how good full suspension can be relative to hardtail, and you don't have to pick a line anymore. You can just ride over everything, especially with 29-inch wheels now. And the thing is I inherited Kai's Canyon. Oh, so I did the math and figured out that Kai would be on the podium or winning if he had a faster bike. The bike was actually, if he's 30 seconds off the podium in 45 minutes to an hour, the bike is holding him back. It was like maybe a minute off the podium. Yeah, the bike was holding him back about 30 seconds per lap based on the weight of the bike and the speed of the bike. And so we upgraded him to a Trek Super Caliber with family investment. And that's all carbon. It's like a 9.7 that's like next to the top. And then he started winning everything because of the bike. I hate it that in cycling you buy speed. It's so unfortunate because it keeps people from being successful because of money. Unlike running, you need very little money to be a good runner. Swimming, you need to get the swim team practice and such. But the bike, oh God, it's such a pain. It sucks so bad. But then also bikes are so cool. Anyway, I love me some bike porn. Just checking out the latest and the greatest. Oh, it's so awesome. Anyway, I crashed, but I'm not that worried about it because a metal bike will endure bike crashing a whole lot better than carbon. And Kai's bike, I'm always a little bit like, if he crashes, I'm like, I hope the bike's okay because carbon can break so much easier. Except Trek has a really good deal on their wheels. Like, I don't know if it's lifetime, but it's like many years of warranty on their carbon rims. If you get Bontrager rims, or maybe, I think they're probably all Bontrager, then you get a crazy good warranty on those wheels. So that's kind of cool. Anyway, so we got the bikes covered. And then I remembered a minute ago, I wanted to talk about the lead up to the race as far as training. I train basically halfway between half Ironman and full Ironman training, like all the time, day in, day out, week in, week out. I do the swimming and biking to be able to do a half Ironman or a full Ironman, and I do the running to be able to do a half Ironman pretty much all the time. And then I modify my training based on what's coming up that I want to do. And the past few years, it's been everything that's been coming up is to join in with Kai on one of his crazy ass gravel races or mountain bike races, to be there too. And then that way we can do something together because he doesn't do triathlon anymore. He just does cycling stuff. But once I discovered marathon mountain biking, then I'm like, oh, this is 4 to 6 hours typically as a marathon mountain bike race. That's like doing a half Ironman. So I get to use all my fueling and endurance and hydration and all that other stuff and apply it to mountain biking. And gravel racing is fun. And the people are laid back, and it's like trail running, where just finishing it's like doing an Ironman. Where just finishing is like an accomplishment. So for 99% of the field, your time is interesting, I guess. But the fact that you did it at all, you get to go in the next week and tell people, I just did a 6-hour mountain bike race. That's what I've been doing like the past few days. People are like, what the I'm like, yeah, dude, seriously. And they're like, yeah, you just, oh man, I was on cloud 9 of bliss. Whatever you get after doing the hormones and endorphins and whatever that you get after doing something really awesome, you feel this like cloud 9 kind of feeling. I had that Monday and Tuesday for a good portion of both days where I was just like, nothing bothered me. I was just like, oh man, I did something awesome. That felt so good. Anyway, the training, besides that, as I got closer to the race, A little bit too late, actually. I did a couple of interval rides because mountain biking is like super power based, like 800 to 1,000 watts to get up and over stuff, just over and over and over again, and then coasting, hard coast, right? And so I did a couple of interval rides, but yeah, I should have started a little bit sooner, but it doesn't matter. I'm happy with my result. In fact, I'm surprised at my results. So that I got mid-pack in a 6-hour mountain bike race, having not mountain biked for 6 months. It's pretty great. And being 51 years old, and I'm up against 20 and 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds to get mid-pack, it's pretty great. So the training was like that, and then the week before the race, I didn't run at all. No, I biked hard. Let me try to remember what I did. I swam 3 times, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, just to keep me busy. And then I biked hard on Monday. The race was going to be on a Saturday. So 5 days before, I did an interval bike ride, and I figured that would give me time. And then I did not bike again. That was it. I did not bike again until race day. So that's like 4 or 5 days of no biking to let my legs recover from the intervals, except I got on the mountain bike with the lights on it and rode around like a mile with headlights on twice to test out the headlights that we were using, the light system. And then was getting a little bit freaked out. Are the lights going to show up in time? Because the handlebar mounted lights, which are your big bright lights that you want, showed up 10 days before the race off of Amazon. And then the lights for our helmets, because you're on trails and the bike's pointed one way, but the trail's turning more than the handlebars are turned. So you need to light up the trail or maybe look off to the side because there's an animal or something freaking you out. You want a light on your helmet as well. And those showed up 2 days before the race. I was like, ugh. And then it turned out that those are weak. Those are more for being seen by cars instead of really lighting up the trail. The helmet ones that we had. And I added to mine a little light, a pinpoint light, and that kind of got the job done. Kai's handlebar light, let's see, is double the size of mine. I ordered one. We only have so much money, for this kind of stuff. So I get him the good stuff and me just enough to get by. Same thing with the bikes, right? He gets a carbon fiber bike. I get the alloy bike. I don't really mind. I have a super bike. I've already had a super bike and still have it for triathlon. I don't need another super bike. So, although I would, somebody sends one on my doorstep, I ain't sending it back. I'm not kicking a super bike out of the bed for eating crackers, as they say. So if you get a super bike laying around, you said, I'll give you my address. And also I do product testing on this show. So any kind of stuff, wheels, I'm always up for wheels. And I do need to upgrade the wheels on my bike. That makes the biggest difference is carbon wheels. But the lights showed up and did some riding around, making sure the lights worked. And I mean, my experience of riding lit in front of the bike is extremely limited. So this was fun to ride around and kind of see how well it lit up stuff and see how it actually, what you can and can't see. When Kai and I were doing our 3-day bike packing trip, we ended up in the dark twice, and we were using little lights that are not made to light up the road, but we were using them. Well, Kai had a half decent one, and that was lighting up the road, and then I would ride behind him. And we rode for a couple hours, maybe a few hours total over 2 days like that. But that's on road, with some gravel. And so you get in the woods, stuff gets really dark, And then we were testing that out, and then I ran Tuesday, swam Wednesday, never ran again to really give my legs a break. Because normally I would run Thursday on a regular week, but I didn't. and continued working on my bike and like testing out lights and charging things and trying to get everything together. And oh my God, the amount of stuff I needed to charge. I'll get to that in a second. It was just ridiculous. And then the race is Blazing Saddles, by the way, if you want to look it up. It's on Facebook. You want to see the race course and the race flyer and stuff. And then and you can find it by Googling 6-hour mountain bike race, Blazing Saddles. That'll get you there. And the next thing was Friday. I swam, didn't bike or run. So basically by Saturday, I think one more day would have been optimal, because when I was warming up, riding around, my legs were a little bit kind of hollow and sore, just a little bit still. But I was not worried about it. And that was my taper. Typically what you do, let's say you're training for an Ironman, you do 2 weeks out, or a marathon or ultra marathon, whatever. 2 weeks out, you half your volume, and a week out, you half it again. That's a good rule of thumb. I think Ironman, if you're like really new to Ironman, I would back it out 3 weeks. Cut it in half, and then in half, and then in half again. Half of a half of a half. The frog jumping kind of story. And you never get to the end of the log. And what you do in your meantime is, as you're going stir crazy, that's a good sign. Once you start going stir crazy and you can't stand it, that means you're ready to race. And it's one of the signs you're ready to race. And what you do in the meantime is that's when you get your gear together and get everything organized and keep yourself busy with that. And if you know that you're going to be stir crazy, but you can keep yourself busy when you're going stir crazy with checking out the race course and, finding out all kinds of details and restaurants nearby and whatever you're doing, all that stuff. If you wait on the logistics and the little details until you start tapering, then it'll keep you busy while you taper. It's a really good strategy. Okay, back to the race, unless I think of something else. We start racing, and on the first lap, everything's going fine. I think I talked about this a while ago. I wrecked a little bit, and then Kai hit a tree branch head on with this helmet. And we were watching the YouTube video that I posted online, ZenEndurance or Brett Blankner on YouTube. I broke it up into 2 parts because the video didn't record right. It recorded sideways, and then getting it fixed, I had to mess with stuff, and eventually I ended up breaking up into 2 pieces, and then it doesn't have all the metrics on it like my usual videos do, which really annoyed me because it filmed sideways, and I couldn't get them on there without the metrics being sideways forever. Anyway, it's a long story. I tried everything. And at 19 minutes and 45 seconds or something like that into video 2, part 2, is a tree on the left side with a V in it about neck high, head high, chest high, and that's the right side of that V is where Kai clocked his head on the and there's a black smudge on the tree, and it's just pixelated, from the video, but Kai's like, that smudge is probably there. That's probably where I hit my head. It's probably from me hitting my head. I said, you and probably other people over all these years. That needs to be flagged. They need to put a piece of flagging tape on that, or somebody saw it down. Anyway, the first lap was, it's daylight. It's 1 billion degrees. And I had that one tiny little spill, and then I get to the aid station, come through, and it was 48 minutes, which I was like, whoa, nice, but then it starts getting, I'm like in the back of my mind, some logistics problems here with like how much water and fuel, and everything's set up for 2 hours, and I'm definitely going to be faster than 2 hours. But anyway, I kept the fuel bottle that I had because it was a little bit less than half full, and then kept the Camelback that I had on, but I figured these laps are only taking me 45 minutes, 48 minutes. And it felt like I had about half a Camelback left. I was like, yeah, I'll probably be all right. I don't need any extra water. Well, that was a mistake. And that set me up for a lot of pain the last half of the race. I go out for my second lap, and I think that might have been my fastest. No, I think my first lap was my fastest, even though I was behind a bunch of people. Oh, and my lower back started hurting. And that's from when you mountain bike and you're going too hard, you're in too big of a gear and you're surging up things. Well, a lot of stress goes to your lower back. And to alleviate that, stop doing that. Gear down, get into an easier gear, and quit trying to wrench yourself up and over everything and just chill, and ride a little bit easier. And I realized that during my second lap, and rode just smoother and easier and stuff. And my second lap time was almost identical to my first lap time. And also, 2 days before the race, Kai went and pre-rode the course. And that's when he told me, there's sandy spots and stuff and be careful. Then he ended up hitting his own head. And then I did not ever pre-ride the course, but I have ridden at this mountain bike course since the 90s. And I know it really, 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 really well. And my strategy was going to be to ride the first lap because I'll be off the back and trying to pace myself and forcibly trying to go slower. I'm going to use the first lap as my pre-ride. And because every lap is the same course over and over and over again. And in mountain biking, for those that don't know that, pre-riding the course makes you way faster. The second time you do a mountain bike trail, you are so much faster than the first. Because now you've like how fast to go through stuff and the angles to take and the paths to take and stuff. And so I was going to use the first lap as kind of my pre-ride anyway, since I was going to be going slower on purpose so that I could do 6 hours of this thing by going slow right from the beginning. And that actually ended up being a pretty good strategy. All right, I'm back. Had to do something real quick. And let's see. Also, we're talking about hydration, but also before I forget, I had the Shocks open ear headphones, bone conduction headphones, and I got the waterproof ones now, the ones for swimming. They do Bluetooth as well. And I listened to music most of the way. I listened to kind of like down-tempo desert, like Himalayan, Indian, Afghani, kind of tribal, kind of cool music that's just awesome. Has like a cool beat to it, no words, just kind of bebopping along. And then for maybe the first half, and then the second half, switched it over to like 90s rap and 2000 rap, like Cypress Hill and Wu-Tang Clan and other stuff, Beastie Boys and other stuff I like to listen to that made the ride go by faster. And open ear headphones, you can hear pretty well. Very well, actually, and they didn't have a rule against that, so that was pretty cool. And anyway, I was halfway through my second lap and ran out of water. And I was like, oh, okay. But, looking back now, I didn't realize it was 108 degrees until I was looking later after the race the next day, looking at, things like time per lap and stuff, with metrics on Strava and Training Peaks. And then I saw the temperature was 108. And so, it was 102 probably whenever I ran out of water. So and a lap's taking me 45 to 48 minutes. And so we're talking almost half an hour. So like 20 something minutes of no water in that heat. That's one thing, right? And that's where I misjudged something. I was like, I'll probably be fine. This sucks. I should have brought water. I should have grabbed one of those water bottles as I went. But the problem is I did not account for like, oh my God, in this heat, this is whatever, I'll just deal with it. This is bad, turned out. So I get to the aid station on the second lap and I'm so thirsty that, and without water, you can't really drink fuel either, and the water has my electrolytes in it. And I do my fuel and electrolytes separate. And it's what I do is I electrolyte my water, and then however much water I drink is the electrolytes that I need because it's diluted with the water. Because you need more electrolytes the more water you drink. You need more because you drink more water because you're sweating. So because you're sweating more, and so therefore you need more electrolytes. But anyway, I get to the aid station. I'm like, Emily, is anybody? Do you have any? There's my water. I'm going to grab my water, for my next laps and stuff. I'm going to grab a fresh Camelback for laps 3 and 4. And these Camelbacks are 2 liters each. And, but I don't want to, use water, yet. Take spare water with me yet. Emily, do you have any water? And she ran over to the car and out of the cooler grabbed a cold bottle of water, like a 12 to 14 ounce, kind of these skinny water bottles that you buy. And I pounded that thing so fast because I was so thirsty. Like 5 seconds, 10 seconds, gone like that. And that caught me up enough. But the damage had kind of been done looking back. And that water didn't have any electrolytes in it. And so I take off again. But my second lap was really nice. Besides the lacking of water, as far as the flow and riding, because now I've got a pre-lap in. It's still daylight. Good daylight too. And I'm just like, oh, this is nice. And then on my third lap, that's when the sun started to kind of go down. And that was the magic hour, is the third and fourth lap, the middle of those, the second half of one and the first half of the other, is when the sun was going down and the sunset was, oh my God, dude, it was pink and red and just pastel colors. And this ranch has a huge drop off to go to the back half of the ranch. And it's totally freaking scary. If you've never ridden it before, it's terrifying. It's in the video on YouTube. And it's on the second part of the video, part 2, the big drop. And but anyway, when you're up high, you can see the views and everything. Oh man, with the sunset. And I found a new love, which is riding at sunset, mountain biking at sunset at this ranch is wow. Oh my gosh, it is beautiful. It is so wonderful. It's a real treat. And you won't experience that racing most of the time. Usually races are done by the middle of the day or the end of the day. And to race into the sunset and to keep going so that you get the full sunset. It was, oh, wow. That really made my heart go pitter patter. I was like, this is something magical that I wasn't expecting and did not know about. And I guess like any race that you do that goes into the sunset, if it's a pretty sunset that goes into the night, you're going to get that. So that's something, if you ever do a race that starts in the daylight and goes into the night, that is the magic hour. Oh, wow, it's so cool. So look for that if you want to do a race like that. And then I noticed in the more treed parts of the trail that it was starting to get kind of hard to see a little bit. It was just darker, and I noticed somebody had a light on, and so even though I didn't quite need it just yet, I went ahead and grabbed my lights, probably at the end of lap 3, I guess. I grabbed my lights, put them on, and now the end of lap 3 and going to lap 4, my Camelback is, I've learned, more than half empty. And my fuel bottle's fine. I got my second 2-hour fuel bottle. I'll get into what I use for fuel in a minute. But to go out and start my 4th lap, I threw one of those water bottles, the triathlon sodiumed, electrolyted, flat water bottles in my jersey pocket. And I was right. About halfway through that lap, I ran out of water, and then I was able to use that water bottle to supplement my water to make it the rest of the way. And I need to put that in my notes for the race. A downside, basically what I really need to do is get a second water bottle mounted on my bike, because what is really difficult to do is to reach and grab things out of your jersey pocket behind your back. The longer you're in a race, especially mountain biking, your arms get really tired and then they can start to cramp up. And so reaching behind your back to grab stuff out of your jersey pocket is painful. And that's why people do things like bento boxes and frame bags in gravel racing, if you can, so that you don't have to reach behind your back because your arm will cramp up. If you can have things in front of you but streamlined, that's optimal. And that's a tip for that people don't know until they do long distance stuff. It's one of those secrets that's going to be a problem. Then I did lap 4, and it was probably lap 5? Yeah, it's lap 4. Yeah, I went out with light. Whatever, doesn't matter. It was a lap where it got dark. And this is where I wrecked. And what's interesting is another thing I learned is just like when it hasn't rained in a long time and then it rains, the roads are really slick, but people drive too fast because they don't appreciate yet how slick the roads are. When it first gets dark, people still go too fast on the bike. They still ride a little bit like it's light, which is a little bit too fast because you can't tell yet. You haven't learned to appreciate yet the fact that things look a little bit different with lights, and your depth perception is off just a little bit. And with mountain biking being pretty technical, that can lead you to crash. And so then what I noticed, along with my crash, was a whole bunch of crashes right after it got dark. And I think it's people going too fast down something that they typically ride all the time. It's like my 4th time on this one feature. And then I crashed on it, and I'm like, why? And it just didn't make sense. But anyway, what happened was to me, it wasn't really a technical section. There's stuff that was that... It's an interesting section, and it's a rough section that I know on my hardtail used to give me trouble, and on my full suspension never really gave me trouble. But it's downhillish, and then it's downhill, and you got some it's a little bit fast because it's downhill, and then it turns to the left, and it's got a whatever you call it, or runoff little groove of it in a root. And then let's say that's, almost all the way down. And then towards the bottom, right, one bike length further past that is a sandy spot. And the sandy spots are, because it's so dry, sandy spots at this mountain bike park come and go because they only pop up when it's been really, really dry. And so I wasn't really thinking about it that much, that this was going to be a problem. And then I misjudged something because I was using lights, and my rear tire wasn't properly aligned on, to take the best path down this thing. And so it got the bike kind of sideways maybe a little bit. It's hard to judge. There's like, there's accidents where people say time slows down and they see their whole life, This was the opposite of that. I was riding and then I was on my face hard. I mean, there was like a millisecond. I do remember it, but it was like bam, like the whole freaking thing just happened so fast. The sandy spot, one part of the bike, let's say, went left, the rear went left, and then the front went right because of the sand, or vice versa. I don't remember. I'd have to get out there with the traffic investigator unit to see, what actually happened. But the thing is the trail curved to the right. I ended up falling. Trail curved to the left. I ended up falling to the right with the momentum of going straight with the bike, and just ate it hard on my. And I've been trying to think of like why I keep separating my ribs whenever I crash really bad or trip and fall really bad. My ribs almost always take the worst of it. And I think from surfing, I've learned to tuck and roll. a lot, and that's my instinct. So coming off the bike, going airborne, I tuck my head and roll and let my side and my shoulder a little bit take the hit. You want to be careful, you don't want to break a collarbone. But so then my upper arm goes into my rib cage often, and maybe that works in surfing because water's soft, but that you're getting rolled along the bottom. But on a mountain bike trail or on pavement or on roots and rocks, your arm's going to go into your ribs and then just splits my ribs. And also I landed on my side of my head, sorta, and just like slid, and then I landed on my right knee, and my right forearm under my right forearm, from like my elbow to the bottom of my wrist, is just my wrist. My whole forearm is scraped up really bad. My right knee, days later, is still weeping like clear fluid, and I got towards the second half of the race, I got a really bad headache, like in a line across my forehead, which was really odd. It was a different kind of headache, and then I realized it's probably the front edge of my helmet digging into my forehead, the impact it took. And then, anyway, I picked myself up, check out the bike real quick. Bike was fine. Oh, no, it was not fine. Well, sort of. Bike was fine. My brand new headlight had twisted on the Garmin mount, and the Garmin bike computer had also twisted on its Garmin mount. And there's something else I've noticed that's interesting is 3-4 years ago, my first time I raced a 6-hour race at this exact same place, but I did it with Kai doing a relay. He went first, and I went, and he went, and I went, and he went, and I went. And on the very last leg, I crashed, and I had my Garmin mounted out in front of me. And I'm a huge fan of having your Garmin mounted out as far in front of you as you can. And then that way, you don't have to look down so far to see your numbers, and then you crash, right? So it's just like a car. You want head up. The more the display can be head up, or a fighter jet, the safer it is, because you can look at your numbers and see what's coming. I've noticed in mountain biking, people, but I've never heard somebody recommend this. I don't know if people are doing it they're doing it on purpose for the reason I'm about to say, but also just by culture, everybody does it and nobody knows why. And so the mountain biking, I've noticed that the bike computers tend to be mounted to the stem, but like on top of the stem, not in front of the bike. There's very rarely is there, compared to like road and gravel, and triathlon, is there a head mount where the bike computer is mounted ahead of the stem. And a few years ago, when I did this race and I crashed, it broke the mount. Like the computer was okay, but it broke the freaking mount off the front of my bike when I crashed. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So then this weekend's crash that just happened, the mounts were not in front of my bike. They were on top of maybe the headlight was kind of out in front a little bit, but the bike computer was on the handlebars. They're on the tops of the bars, and both of them were twisted sideways. Like if they were any further out, they would have broken. And it did kind of break the Garmin mount. The mount that I had on my bike was like one that you tighten down with a bolt, and it knocked that one so silly. Both of the Garmin and the Light were twisted on the mount, so I had to twist them both to get them back in place. And when I twisted the Garmin one to get it back in place, the whole thing was floppy on the bars. And then I realized, I guess I'd have to go back and look, but the rubbery gasket inside the mount of my Garmin mount had flown off the bike and was now in the sand somewhere. And so now the bike computer was just hanging loose on my handlebars. And so this was really cool. One of my things that I put in the bento box, and people don't use bento boxes in mountain biking typically, but I use them because in triathlon, I've learned the value of bento boxes. And also in gravel biking, I've seen people talk about putting their tire plug kits, not in a saddlebag behind them and buried deep, but like in a bento box so you can get to it super fast, right? So you just do a zipper, bam, there it is, right? Well, I also happen to put my bike tool, the Allen wrench set, in the bento box up front in case I needed it in an emergency, and my tire plugs and my asthma inhaler. And this was a screw down mount. So I pulled out my Allen key set, started tightening. I got off the side of the trail, which was really narrow in that spot. And I was tightening that down, and somebody goes, "You okay?" And I go, "Yeah." And then I'm like, "It's a race now." That's how you know it's a race, is you're crashing. And that took maybe another minute or two, I think, added to my time. And then I get back on the bike and I start pedaling, and I'm okay. And I'm scraped up pretty good, but I'm fine, and the bike seems to be fine. And I hold on a sec. The thing is, I get to the aid station, and Emily and Kylie shine a light on me, and they're like, "Ooh," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm all right." And then they tell me about Kai and his concussion, and they said, "You just missed Kai," or something like. Maybe it was a lap after that. I just missed Kai. Oh, and Kai had lapped me halfway through the race, and I'm like, "Oh, I have a chance." A little bit more than halfway through the race, he lapped me, and I was like, "Oh," because my goal was for Kai not to lap me twice. At first, it was so funny. I was talking to a friend, and I was like, "My goal is for Kai not to lap me." And then I thought about it, and I go, "That kid's going to freaking lap me, dude. My goal, let's change it. My goal is for him not to lap me twice." And he didn't, but there's if I'd done another lap, then he probably would have lapped me. And I stopped right before 6, and then he stopped at 6:30, I think, and he got in 8 laps, and I got in 6 laps. So he would have lapped me right before I finished, or halfway through my last lap, if I'd gone out for another lap. Anyway, so now it's dark, really dark, and yeah, I head out for another lap, and this is where I'm really hurting. This is the lap where I start cramping all over. And I'm like, man, because for training, I did mention this earlier, my long bike ride's 4.5 hours long. And that's my long rides. Lots of 1-hour rides and shorter rides mixed in, intervals and stuff like that. So a 6-hour race, even though it's mountain biking, a 6-hour race, I shouldn't be cramping this bad this early on. And I'm like, I wonder what's up with this? It's kind of odd. And the cramps were a little bit all over, which is a sign of electrolyte and dehydration. If it's all over, if it's just in your legs, that means you're going too hard. If it's all over, then it's hydration, because hydration affects your whole body. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess it's that half hour without water, set me up. And dude, I mean, it was painful and it sucked. And it really had me thinking, like, if I ever wanted to do this again, because it was that bad. And, now, of course, I want to, now that I kind of know also what the problem is. And, it's type 2 fun. And that lap was rough. And it was during that lap that I was like, okay, I'm going to finish this lap. I'm trying to think of what time. I'm going to finish this lap at 4.5 hour, 4:15, 4 hours and 15 minutes, let's say. And then if I go out 4.5. Yeah. I'm going to finish this lap at 4.5 hours. If I go out for another lap, then I'm going to come in, I'm going to finish that last lap. And also I've crashed and it's really dark, but now I've learned to appreciate, just ride slower. So that lap was pretty slow. And also I was cramping and stuff. But so I'm trying to do the math in my head, like what's going to happen. And so I decided on that 5th lap, and I kind of lost track of laps too, I think. I showed on my bike computer the fields that I used. I used time, heart rate. I didn't have power meter on my bike, on my mountain bike. And then I showed lap time and last lap time. So I could, because you forget, as you're going through, what was it, 48 minutes? Was it 42 minutes? Was it 53? And for it to show so you can look at it anytime how long your previous lap was is nice. And then I had time of day, because that's the cutoff is, 11 p.m., no matter what. And if you accidentally turn off your bike computer or I don't know, whatever, it's always nice to have time of day on there. And then I think that was all the fields I showed. But if I was going to do the race again, I would show lap because I don't know. I kind of forgot. I lost track of which lap I was on. And if you're doing things, multi-lap and you've got your fuel and your water set up, per certain number of laps, I guess that would be a good thing to show. So I would probably change that. And yeah, I'm like, well, I'm going to go out and do one more lap. And that lap, I'm going to take my time. And this will probably be my last lap. And I had set up my camera ready to go if I go and do another lap. And, okay. My idea was I'm going to film a lap in the dark because plenty of people see mountain biking during daylight, but mountain biking at night, that's different, so that would be cool to video. And if I video that, I want it to be on my last lap where I'm riding casually and I know it's over and I'm just going to enjoy it. And that'll probably be the lap. So that's what I decided to do. And then also during that lap, what I did is while I'm recording it, I'm wearing it chest mounted. I decided also to narrate the entire thing and talk. And that would make the time go by better. And because I was going to be in some pain and also going to be going slow. So just talking out loud and narrating what I'm seeing would make the time fly by a little bit faster. It's like I got a buddy riding with me, but it's y'all, that I'm talking to. So it's pretty cool. And it ended up working out pretty great. I actually liked it. Oh, and if I was any other lap, I would actually be trying to go fast, and then I wouldn't be able to narrate and tell you what I'm seeing. So I saved it for the very last lap when I knew that was it, So I put on the chest mounted camera and took off, and that'll be lap 6, right? But I noticed on lap 5, I experienced on lap 5, the harder obstacles I was needing to walk because of cramping and also because of the dark. And there's a thing, the Galloway method where you mix in walking with your running and you actually go faster if it's long distance for running ultra marathons and stuff. I knew that if I mixed in some walking with my mountain, I was fine with it, with walking my bike up the harder obstacles. And then I knew that I would actually be able to bike longer and go more laps and more distance and more time if I mixed in a little bit of walking. So I had no problem ego-wise with getting off my bike. And plus I was wearing running shoes and flat pedals. So if I started getting a really bad cramp, what I noticed on lap 5 is I was needing to walk a few things because of bad cramping, rarely, but on occasion. And then the really 3 or 4 really technical obstacles, I just ended up just getting off my bike and walking them. And stuff that was really steep. And so I did that on lap 6 as well, but with even more intention of this is fine, this is what I'm doing. Because also, I ain't wrecking again, dude. That sucked. and then so I filmed a whole video, and it took me an hour and 15 minutes, hour and 18, I don't know, something like that, to do the final lap. That's how tired I was and crampy. I had energy, in my heart and soul. I was fine. But so calorie-wise, I was fine. It was just the dehydration style cramping. And then the also not wanting to wreck and having wrecked, and the darkness makes things like slower. So, I filmed this video, and I was really excited when I was all done the next day, working while I'm recovering from the race on Sunday, posting the video on YouTube. And it was a lot of fun, man, like putting the video together. I didn't have to do much, you just post it and write a description, and that was it. And so on there you have the video of me doing it's in 2 pieces, the last lap, and also so you can see what it's like trying to ride at night with lights. And my light's about half as good as what you really want. And so it's somebody commented that it looks like the Blair Witch Project. And on the course, there's in the second video, I start to fall over backwards and crash a little bit. That one's funny. And then right after that, there's a Sasquatch wood carved statue in the woods, and you see that briefly for a second. That's pretty cool. I talk about it. It's not doesn't just show up and then disappear. I should go back to the video and add that as chapters where that happens. And then an alien. That's an alien statue that's lit from underneath. It looks pretty cool. And then coming across the finish line with all the aid station people and stuff, and the race still going on. And then coming across the finish line and going through the barn. And the beginning of the video, of the very first video, I'm at the aid station leaving. And that's kind of cool to see Emily and Kylie. And then come across the finish line and then talking for just a second. And then I tacked onto the second video the bit a while later, where when Kai finished and he's laying on the ground, then I go up and talk to him, and he's just laying there exhausted, and his girlfriend's sitting next to him, and we just talk for a minute, and that's the end of the video. So we decided to leave because Kai and I are both banged up pretty good, and it was very late. It's 1 a.m. ish. No, it's like midnight. It's midnight-ish, and we were pretty sure that neither one of us won any awards. And then it turned out that Kai got the fastest third lap, but they weren't going to give it to him. And then the other thing is, I might have gotten podium for my age group, but they never broke up the results by age group. So, and I can't click on people's names. I got 18th place, right? But nothing's done by age. And then also, maybe I'll go back and look. Y'all hold on, let me see. And also, if I click on people's names above me that finished ahead of me, there's no information about how old they are. So I don't know. I'd have to Google search every single 17 people and discover all these people and find out, how old they are, and somehow, and then did I get, for the 50 to 60 age group, did I get, third place, second place, first place? I don't know, which is unfortunate. I think that should be in the results. Hold on, let me go double check to see if they've updated it, but I think that they haven't. All right, had to skip off that, and we're now, there's a beep, finishing a 6-mile run the next morning. It's Thursday morning and trying to run, and boy, starting off made the separated rib hurt, sharp pain, but then your body releases its own painkillers and softens things up a little bit. When you walk things off and you feel better, it's probably not better. You're probably still injured. But anyway, super hot, humid. Where I left off, I ran this morning. I biked Monday night, Tuesday night. Very easy both times. Gravel bike. It's a mix around here, 50-50. And then swam yesterday morning. And that swim, pushed off the wall, came up, and then arched my right arm and twisted my torso. Get that first breath of air on the right side, and that right rib on the separated rib on the right side just went yow. I was like, oh crap, it's gonna be an hour of this. And it took a little bit, but then it got better. And I got in 4,000 yards, which was nice. And now I'm at the house. We'll catch up with what happened, like getting home and from the race here in a second. I got to go in and cool off and get to work. And also get stuff out of my truck. Kai's going to borrow my truck. People say trucks are bad for the environment because you use it as a personal vehicle instead of a truck. Well, you're also the community truck. Other people borrow it all the time. So there's that. It is getting use like that as well. So, all right. Be right back. All right, I'm back. I'm in the ZenTry Mobile Studios. And I'm on my way, actually not into work. I got a doctor's appointment and I got about a half-hour drive, so we'll finish this up. Just real quick on the truck, you know, the point I was trying to make is that you never know the full story behind anything, you know. And yeah, there are people that just drive a truck and then don't ever use it. But the upside of, well, let me give another example. I had a coworker in geography stuff that was doing analysis on streets and parks and how there's no parks in modern neighborhoods and there's more street, you know, but whatever. And I said, well, there's something you haven't considered, that cul-de-sacs, you know, streets that have dead ends, act as kind of parks, and every neighborhood has dozens of them. And he's like, what do you mean? And I said, if you can, when you have kids, live on a street that's a cul-de-sac and live like halfway down to or towards the end. Don't live at the very end because you get headlights in your house all the time. But the turnaround at the end of the street is a kid's playground, and parents come out and sit in their lawn chairs just like a park and watch the kids play. And the kids play kickball. When I was growing up at kickball, we had bike jump ramps, playing tag, all that stuff, and it's safe. And then if a car comes down the street that's not supposed to be on that street, especially a suspicious looking car, there's parents out there that give them the stink eye, you know, and it's considered generally safe, and everybody's lawn of their house is up to it, and the kids running in and out of people's yards. Nobody cares, you know, they run around trees and stuff, and it acts as a park. There's parks everywhere in a weird way, you know, if you think about it. But anyway, yeah, I drive a truck, but also you don't need, but several trucks around. One truck in the family, you know, actually serves the entire family. And one truck amongst a group of friends acts as the friend's truck. And so Kai doesn't have a truck, but then when he wants one, he uses mine, and then mine gets used as a truck. Anyway, that's what I'm talking about. It makes a lot of sense. Let's move on. You get what I'm talking about. Let's see. While I was running, this is your moment of Zen, of many. I was listening to Tao Te Ching. Well, on YouTube, there's tons of videos describing the Tao Te Ching, and it's spelled Tao sometimes, most of the time. And it's the predecessor to Zen. And some people say that Zen is actually the reincarnation, is the modern rehabilitation and second coming of Taoism. And Taoism is just, you know, things have a flow to them, and to use the natural flow of things instead of fighting things. And it's a lot of kind of like what the Force in Star Wars is based on. You know, things aren't really good or bad, but you know, when you're paddling down a river, let the current take you, and then when the tide is out and you can't go anywhere, that's when you rest. And when I was surfing, there's a rip current. You let the rip current pull you out, and then you paddle sideways along the shore just a few hundred feet, and if that, and then you can ride the waves in, and then when you get to the beach, you go sideways and then ride the rip current back out again. You know what I mean? Instead of like fighting things, you use the natural flow of things and stuff. So anyway, I suggest you check it out. There's lots of Wu Wei and Zhao. It's a rabbit hole of really cool stuff that really makes a lot of sense. Kind of like is it Ralph Waldo Emerson? The Walden Pond. Just don't really try too hard to be things, and things just happen, and don't worry too much about it. This is like the original version of that. It's a really cool philosophy. And the whole point of learning philosophy is you learn different ways to think. And I would say there's no correct way to think. Once you learn like 20 different philosophies, then and then hold them loosely, then when you're presented with situations in life, you have a great tool set. Sometimes it's Stoicism, sometimes, the teachings of Socrates, sometimes the teachings of Nietzsche, or who's a modern philosopher? I don't know, Stephen Hawking, Einstein, relativity, that energy is actually matter, which is actually time. It's actually a philosophy when you think about it. And it's all just like beliefs on how the universe works. And so you have all these in your back pocket. And then as life unfolds, you've got a nice tool set. There's nothing better. Everybody knows this. There's nothing better when you have a job to do and you actually have a tool, like custom made for the job, right? Like you're working on your bike and you have exactly the right Allen wrench and exactly like it fits perfectly and it's well made and you get to use it and you're like, Or if you're sawing lumber or you're chopping wood, and you have like a beautiful axe, and then it's wonderful. That's how, when you know different philosophies, you can apply them well. And it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. And there's a call for, I've read articles about this. Every business, and a lot of big businesses do, needs a philosophy major right there next to the CEO and the executive, the XO, the CIO, the everybody. They also need a philosophy major, and that's the person that dictates, where the company is going and why. And my job, I act as both. I act as a manager and as the philosophy major of the system that I run and why I run it the way I do. And I have to fight for it a lot of times. This is a really good example. I got asked by my boss the other day, why is the system behind? And I was like, who told you it was behind? He's like, well, this one person. And I'm like, well, that's one person told you that with the system. I've been here 20 years. The system's right exactly where it should be. And it's actually being held back by, you can only upgrade the system as far as the weakest link, right? Because the system all has to work. So you upgrade as the weakest link and then you be patient. And then when the weakest link strengthens up, then you can upgrade the entire system. And there is as long as you're on top of things and the system is functioning, and it, in computer terms, at 99.9% uptime, and everybody has the tools that they need, and also you provide, the futuristic tools to some people that really do need it, you go out of your way to help them out, then the system's fine. It is not behind, And like, you don't rush things. You just let things, you can't put summer after winter. There has to be spring first, And boy, that really doesn't sit well with some people. They're like, what the hell are you talking about in the business world? But some people get it. It's just like, it also has a lot to do with how you talk about it, you answer questions with questions. Like, well, who told you it's behind? Well, somebody said, oh, that's one person. That's a tree with a problem. The forest seems to be fine. So I don't know which. Yeah, and then also, if you've had a rough year, like you're getting your employee review and there's troubles, I teach people to say, oh, sometimes you have a good year, sometimes you have a bad year. Sometimes good luck, sometimes bad luck. And the whole thing is just to be here. I'm here, and it's sometimes it's good luck and sometimes great luck, because bad luck would be if you die. That would be bad. So that's a bad year. Good year is things are just moving along, and ups and downs. A great year is things are wonderful, and then sometimes you have just an okay year. You know? Anyway, I just thought I'd pass that along as what I was listening to while I was running. And it's really good stuff to listen to on bike rides and runs. It's actually how I got into Zen and the Art of Triathlon and Zen and the Art of Endurance, was listening to that kind of stuff and then passing along to people. Y'all seem to love it. Me trying to explain it and how it applies to everyday life. And oh man, Wu Wei and Taoism, it's the art of doing nothing, which means it's not to sit there and do nothing, but sometimes things don't need doing. That doing makes them worse. You just let things evolve and unfold. And the modern saying is, I'm gonna let that cook. Let that person. It's always like really frustrating, like a Karen that's all screaming and yelling about something, you know. But you don't have. You can choose to interact. You're like, I'm just gonna let that person cook, and then eventually they run out of steam, and then they're like, okay, you done? All right, now let's get down to work. Anyway, coming back from the race. Well, we packed up, and like I said, I got like 18th. Kai got 9th. He did not lap me twice. He lapped me once. And when he passed me, oh, it's such a magical moment, you know. Hey, Dad, how's it going? I don't think he said Dad. Hey, how's it going? And because I was like, who is this? And then I said, hey. I barely recognized him because he looked so, you know, pro and racing and going by so fast with another group of people just hauling ass. And I'm there all like a tourist. And I looked it up. He had one lap that was slower than my fastest lap. My fastest lap was 47. He had one lap that was 50. Probably when he stopped for something. And then all of his other laps were like 35, 40, 42. You know, like crazy. He had one that was like a 46 or 47. So he might have matched my fastest lap for one lap too. But then he had a 50. It is so comical, like how much better. That's one thing, when I got into triathlon, I thought I was in good shape. This was like 20 years ago. I thought I was pretty badass. And I could not believe, I took it as inspirational. You know, it's that positive mindset. How much better people could be than me. And I thought, you know, I was decent. Like, you know, and like, I didn't think I was world class or anything like that. But like, how much the gap of somebody that just been doing it for a while and training some, you know, better, and the difference in talent was so inspirational. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. It's a lifetime sport of trying to get better. And how do you do it? You know, how do you get to be that good at this thing? So anyway, that's the right approach to take. It's a growth mindset. Anyway, we drove home. Driving home sucked. And it was because halfway between there and home, it's about an hour and a half drive, is a town of Caldwell, which it's a small town, you know, that has like the high school football team, the Caldwell Hornets, written on the water tower. That's the size. It's got a McDonald's and a Whataburger, and we went to McDonald's first, and it was closed. It was like 1 a.m. It's like 12. It just closed. It was like they closed at midnight. So we went over to Whataburger, and the line at Whataburger was really slow. I keep a record of these things, so I know on the way back. And then the line, it was drive-through only, and Whataburger's notoriously like super slow. And the line was so slow that in the drive-through, I got out and went to the bathroom at the gas station next door and got back in the car. And I was filthy in my bike outfit. And then I just walked into the gas station, used the bathroom, and then walked out. And bike kit and everything, covered in dirt and mud and stuff and sweat, and you know, it's just like, whatever, dude, I'm doing my life. And my theory, and I've done it before, when people are like, you need to buy something to come in here, I go, I have bought something here. I live in the area. I come through here all the time. You know what I mean? To use the bathroom. That's what I'm saying. And then we got home. Oh, it was so painful to ride home, just so tired and whatever. But then we were home, and Kai hopped in the shower, and I jumped in the pool. And I stood there in the pool, which is nice because it's zero gravity, and just kind of, let's see, I need a map. I'm trying to get to the doctor's appointment, trying to find the right road. It's a good road right here. And just kind of floated there for a little bit and slowly stripped out of my clothes. And then I got into cleaned up and then went to bed. And then woke up the next morning. And then that's when I realized like how sore I was, you know. And that was rough. Sunday worked on the video, and gotta say I love making the videos and putting them on YouTube. I struggled with it and still loved it. And then what was the next thing? I was sore and had trouble walking, and then I get to work on Monday. I have trouble walking, getting up and sitting down. I have a desk job, so I gotta sit up, sit down, or get up, sit down, get up, sit down, and sitting for any length of time and then standing up is the worst. And then I'm waddling around, and the oozing knee scrape is sticking to the inside of my jeans, and that lasted for 2 days. And then on Wednesday morning I got up and I was in the kitchen, and then I realized I didn't struggle getting up and get to the kitchen. And like I always say, when you forget that you're injured, that's when you're over your injuries. And I wouldn't call that injuries, really. I mean, I had a big contusion, bruise on my upper right thigh, separated rib. I'd call that an injury. Everything else is just like soreness, and I think that's it. So let's go into this doctor's visit. I'm just doing a checkup, and I'll be right back, and we can catch up with what's coming next. And actually, I'll kind of talk about that a little bit right now. Kai's going to Texas State next week, to start school, and he's on the cycling team, and he has mountain bike races all through the fall. I don't have a race per se picked out yet. The big race, I think it's in November though, is the Austin Rattler is what it's called, and it's a 3-lap mountain bike course that's really rugged and tough, and it's a qualifier for Leadville. And Kai wants to qualify for Leadville, and they also do lottery spots. We did it last year, and Kai missed a Leadville spot by just a position or two, place-wise, and then we hung around, and the lottery spot never materialized for Kai. I did support. I really want to do the race, and then possibly I could get a lottery spot, and maybe, I don't know if I could transfer it to Kai or not. I don't know if they allow that. Probably not. But I could qualify, you know, by lottery for this race. It's at Reveille Peak Ranch, which is out in the hill country, and it's rugged, rough mountain biking. And that seemed to me, I mean, they gave out tons of lottery spots, and say they gave out, it was like 8, you know, spots qualified for like how well you placed, and then like 30 to 40 lottery spots. And I realized that's actually how most people get into this thing, is they get in by lottery, not by qualifying. So anyway, there's that. And then I'd like to do a half Ironman and in the fall, waiting for it to cool down. Full Ironman, I train for full Ironmans except for the run. The biking and swimming I could do a full Ironman anytime. My run, I'd have to pick up the running volume to double what I run right now. You want to run about 45 miles per week to run an Ironman, to do an Ironman, and I'm doing about half that. But it's so hot, and I'm gradually overcoming a running injury and losing weight, that I don't want to exacerbate that. And I enjoy running with River, and it's so hot right now that I have to wait till the fall. So we'll see. I could crank out a half Ironman, no problem right now. But I think that's where I'm at. That's it for a show. Stay tuned to YouTube. I'm posting videos. I'm working with Culprit Bikes. I'm putting on arm pads. The bike is at the bike shop. Putting on arm pads on the gravel bike. And I'm videoing typically once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, long bike rides to put on YouTube, where I go and act ridiculous and talk about stuff. And that's a supplement or a partner. I'd say it's an equal to the podcast. It's just video instead of this. And go check that out. That's ZenEndurance or Brett Blankner on YouTube. And also on Instagram, Zen Triathlon on Instagram. You can check me out. And That's it. Everybody stay safe out there. Work the uphills, cruise the downhills, keep the rubber side down, and go support the show at patreon.com/ZenTry. All right, check y'all later. Out.